Welcome to Using Objective Tests in the Classroom. This presentation covers formative and summative assessments, different types of objective tests, reliability and validity of tests, and using objective tests. Formative assessment is conducted during an educational program to provide immediate feedback. Enrich and Tambari state it is conducted to help diagnose classroom learning problems and to suggest ways to overcome them. Formative assessment consists of frequent, regular testing of students' understanding. This quote-unquote testing does not imply a paper and pencil test every few minutes. Rather, asking students questions throughout the lesson or checking understanding is part of formative assessment. During a math lesson, asking a student, "What is 2 plus 2?" and receiving an answer lets the teacher know that the student knows or does not know 2 plus 2. The frequency of formative assessment allows for immediate modifications to instruction. Sometimes, formative assessment takes place when you look at your students' faces and realize from their facial expression that they do not understand what you just said. You can immediately use synonyms or explain the concept in a new way. The purpose of formative assessment is threefold. First, formative assessment is used to develop students' awareness of their learning and of their ability to adjust their learning accordingly. Second, formative assessment enables teachers to use these results to monitor their instruction. When a large portion of the class does not grasp a learning objective, the results suggest that something should change, such as instructional techniques or the time devoted to that learning objective. When the class summary shows mastery by all students, the teacher knows the current approach is effective. Third, formative assessment can be used by principals to make decisions about teacher training and curriculum. Summative assessment, however, is different than formative assessment. Summative assessment is conducted after an educational process has been completed in order to evaluate its effectiveness. Enrich and Tambari define summative assessment as assessment that is conducted for the purpose of assigning a grade or rank to classroom learners. Summative assessment is basically the end of a unit test, final exam, portfolio, etc. Summative assessment allows the teacher to know the effectiveness of the curriculum and of the instruction that they provided the students. It can assist in making modifications for students, such as reteaching content after the time of assessment. The purpose of summative assessment is fourfold. First, a purpose of summative assessment is to measure student understanding following a sustained period of instruction, such as a unit, with the focus on identifying the level of student mastery and the effectiveness of instruction. Second, to determine student achievement rather than aptitude or effort. Third, for students, it may determine final course grades. Finally, for teachers, it is a means of accountability. Summative assessments provide 9 things. First, it provides information concerning a student's mastery of specific course material. Second, it provides a basis of comparing student achievement to reference group and/or external performance criteria. Third, it provides a means of determining the effectiveness of instructional activities or materials. Fourth, summative assessment provides objective information for assigning course grades. Fifth, it gives comparative data to determine student placement. Sixth, it provides a means of holding teachers and schools accountable for student learning. Seventh, it provides content-specific information to inform parents. Eighth, it provides diagnostic information about strengths and weaknesses in student performance. Finally, summative assessment provides data to determine achievement of departmental or curriculum performance standards. Objective tests measure kinds of knowledge. The format of an objective test, when created carefully, are unbiased and impartial in their evaluation. Creating an effective, well-written objective test, however, is not an easy task. There are 5 types of traditional test item formats. They are multiple choice, true or false, matching, completion, and short answer. Multiple choice items ask students to select the best answer or what they think is the correct answer. They are the most popular, most flexible, and most widely used of the traditional test items. Here are some tips for designing multiple choice items. True or false questions test knowledge of concepts, facts, or correct applications of facts. Like multiple choice questions, they narrow the focus of assessment and of student responses. Here are some tips for designing true or false items. Matching questions measure factual information and are based on simple associations. They measure a student's proficiency in simple recognition of items. Here are some tips for designing matching questions. Completion questions should be short answers of no more than 3 words. Many people know these types of questions as fill in the blank. Here are some tips for designing completion items. Short answer questions, also known as essay questions, allow for definition and open-ended type answers. They allow the student to define or explain a word or phrase. Here are some tips for designing short answer items. For objective tests or traditional items, reliability refers to whether the item will result in consistent performance from a student if he or she were to respond to the item again. For objective tests or traditional items, validity refers to whether the item measures what it is supposed to measure. When creating traditional items, it is important to recheck to make certain that you can depend on the scores and that the items actually ask for what you want to measure. Check that the answer key for each item is correct. Check the match between items and learning objectives. Test the items before using them to test the students. Be careful to avoid needlessly complicated syntax and unnecessary test or test question length. Check that the vocabulary, content, and idioms in the test are the ones that were taught in class. Some ideas for increasing reliability and validity of objective tests in the classroom include the following. 1. Develop a table of specifications for a final unit test before ever teaching the unit to be sure that all material is accurately and appropriately covered. Share a copy of the plan with the students and explain expectations. Involve students in the process of devising the tests. Have students evaluate the quality of tests that come with the textbook. Have students work in teams to complete a longer test. Objective tests are excellent for the documentation of student mastery of content. They are good for the use in school accountability, evaluation of curriculum, and to assess student perceptions and interests. However, be cautious when using objective tests for high-stakes reasons, such as high school graduation. Objective tests are appropriate for the documentation of student reasoning and skills, to diagnose student weaknesses, and to motivate students. Objective tests are not appropriate to use when grading content or performance that would have numerous options for test answers or would require complicated grading systems, such as a rubric.